And Senator Reid, I want to ask you first about the situation in Afghanistan. Our military commander there, General Petraeus, was so disturbed by this and the reaction, the fallout in Afghanistan, that he sent emails to all the Sunday morning shows telling them to please emphasize that he condemns this. And now you have Afghanistan President Karzai calling on Congress to condemn the burning and to prevent it, he says, from happening again. Do you have a response to this?
Of course, this man in Florida who burnt the Koran, this was a publicity stunt. Basically had nobody in his church anyway, and this was an effort to get some publicity for him. He got it, but in the process, 10, 20 people have been killed. Religious extremism in any form is wrong, and certainly all these deaths is wrong. I'm very, very disappointed that this man who we had some dealings with in January, December, who indicated he wouldn't do anything, and then suddenly, I guess, the publicity had fallen down a little bit, so he decided to do this. It's really too bad, and I think people should understand the consequences of what they do and under the guise of religion.
Will you introduce a resolution to condemn this by the Congress, or where do you go from here?
We'll take a look at this, of course. John Kerry, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, has been on top of this. He's made many trips to Afghanistan, and I think we'll take a look at this. As to whether we need hearings or not, I don't know.
Senator Reid, you heard Liz Palmer in Tripoli. The war goes on. American warplanes have created a no-fly zone. We're heavily involved militarily. But as you heard her say, Gaddafi is still there. What do we do next here?
Well, the people of Libya are going to decide, and I think fairly quickly, whether that's days or weeks, but I think it's days or weeks, as to whether they're going to be ruled by a terrorist, a war criminal, Gaddafi, or whether they're going to have a society that's civilized. And I think they've already cast their lot. They want a civilized society.
There's a dispute here in Washington about whether the rebels, or whether we should now arm them. Should we?
I spoke to the president yesterday about this, President Obama, and I think at this stage we really don't know who the leaders of this rebel group is. We have others, as Secretary Gates has said, that can do it more easily than we can. So I think at this stage, let's just wait and see.
Syria. This is the big problem. You saw again these demonstrations in Syria. Do you envision the United States becoming involved militarily there?
I don't see that. I do think that Syria has been really a difficult problem for us for some time. They're working with Hezbollah. They have been disturbing what's going on in Lebanon for a long period of time. They're in effect a state of Iran. They get their orders from Iran. So this country is not really a country of its own. And I think the sooner there's some stability there, the better off we are. Now, I hope reestablishing a new cabinet will help, but I don't see us getting involved there militarily.
Well, let's talk about what's happening here in Washington. Congress, Senator, has been in session since January, and unless you can find some way around it, the government will have to shut down at the end of this week because you can't agree on a budget. Can you avoid a government shutdown?
You know, we throw numbers around here, and that's good. We need to do that. But this is more than numbers. This involves people. What they did with H.R. 1, this bill that did such mean-spirited things, not to cut the debt, but send an ideological message. For example, little kids, Head Start. These are the poor little children around the country, little boys and girls who want to get a head start. That is, be able to, when they go to school, learn to read and write and do a little bit of math. The cutting benefits to homeless veterans.
Yes.
These are the kinds of things that have received a lot of publicity.
But can you avoid the government shutting down?
The Republican leadership in the House has to make a decision whether they're going to do the right thing for the country or do the right thing for the Tea Party. The Tea Party, you see, they spent weeks organizing here, and the day came for their demonstration a couple of days ago. They didn't have thousands of people there. They didn't have hundreds of people. They had tens of people. If you really stretch it, you might have had 150 people there. The Tea Party is not looked at very strongly around the country. The only attention they get is in the House of Representatives, and they shouldn't be getting that attention.
What I mean, are you saying that Speaker Boehner and the Republicans who've been here a while are afraid of the Tea Party? Is that what's going on here?
That's a pretty good choice of words. The answer is yes. The Tea Party is dictating a lot that goes on in the Republican leadership in the House, and they shouldn't. It shouldn't be that way. We've agreed on a number. Let's work to get that number done. We realize that the country needs to do something about spending, and the long-term benefits to doing something about the deficit are significant. But we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We, during the Clinton years, reduced the debt. For 4 years, we paid down the debt. We know how to do this, but we don't do it on the backs of middle-class Americans.
You said you've agreed on a number. That is a number, how much to cut from the current budget.
That's right.
That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
What is the number?
But Bob, the other thing is $73 billion. But also remember this. What the H.R. 1 does, what the House is trying to do is send out a message, we're going to balance the budget. But they're doing it with about 10% of the budget. You can't do that. And these are the domestic discretionary programs. Let's assume for purposes of our discussion here that we eliminate everything. That is, we got rid of all the courts, the Bureau of Land Management, the Forest Service, the Immigration and Naturalization, Congress, everything, we get rid of it. Still wouldn't balance the budget. We need to look at the long-term impact that our spending habits have created. We need to look at why do we need to continue giving tax breaks to the oil companies?
But
the former head of Shell Oil said he didn't think that was appropriate anymore. Agriculture are making more money now than they've ever made. Let's take a look at some of those.
Well, do you think, let me go back to my original question, do you think at the end of this week the government is going to be shut down, or is it going to be operating?
I always look at the glass being half full. I think we can work this out. It's so easy to do. We're just really, in Washington terms, a few dollars short of being able to do this. It's a question of how we do it. We can't do it on Head Start. We can't do it, that's a program for little kids. We can't do it on homeless veterans. We can't do it on a program that was developed by President Nixon. The legislation was introduced by the first President Bush when he was in Congress. That's a Title 10. All those programs have not contributed to the debt. Let's work on programs that contribute to the debt.
What does the president need to become more involved? What would you like to happen here? What can make this happen? What does Speaker Boehner have to do here?
President has been heavily involved. Every day that I'm working, we have with us the head of the Office of Management Budget, Jack Lew. We have Rob Neighbors, who was a longtime appropriations chief clerk in the House. We work with the president on a daily basis. He gets a briefing every day. I talk to him. I talked to him yesterday. I talked to Biden. So they're heavily involved here. What my friend John Boehner needs to do is say, what's the best thing for the country? And we all know the best thing for the country is to work something out on this. It's so easy to do, but we have to have a fair share of other programs, not just these programs that hurt middle class and the poor in America.
All right. Mr. Majority Leader, thank you so much for being with us this morning.